and rescue, ambulance, health clinic, UB hospital, e-counseling UB, or counseling.ub.ac.id. In order to guarantee the quality of all units in Universitas Brawijaya has reached some accreditations such as National Accreditation, Grade A accreditation from National Accreditation Body for Universities. Universitas Brawijaya also has an external quality assurance institution for higher education in whole study programs, LAM PTKS. International Accreditation. Appreciations is given to UB Library, which has been accredited by a national library with rank A in 2016. And accreditations by associations of charter certified accountants.
Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, audience of 3-in-1 program 2023 of Public Administration Study Program. I would like to introduce myself. My name is Taufik Akbar. I'm one of the lecturers in the Public Administration Department. I will become your moderator for today. Okay, this is the 3-in-1 program session, which is the second day. And for the second day, our theme is about lecturing. So today, there are two great presenters that will explain to you about renewable energy utilization policy to reduce the impact of climate change. Okay, the first presenter will be Mr. Jordi from Tokyo University.
Kyoto.
Kyoto University, I'm sorry. Good morning, Mr. Jordi.
Good morning. Thank you very much.
Is it morning in Japan?
Yes. Well, it's actually afternoon now. It's noon. We have 2 hours of difference. It's noon.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it hot in there? Because in Indonesia, the temperature is about 37 degrees. Very hot.
Fantastic. No, over here it's around 20. And
around 20.
The mornings it's already going down to 15, so a little bit cool, but nice and cool actually.
It must be nice on there.
Yeah.
Okay, our second presenter is Mr. Anugerah Yuka from BRIN. BRIN is what is it in Indonesia? Yeah. Good morning, Mr. Anugerah. What should I call you?
Yuka. Good morning.
Okay, Mr. Yuka. Okay, Mr. Yuka is the practitioner from the field.
Yuka.
Okay, the first session will be from Mr. Jordi. You can share about the presentation about 30 minutes, and then we can go on to Mr. Yuka, and then after that we end it with closed question and answer session. Okay, Mr. Jordi.
Thank you very much.
Time is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Tofik. Actually, I made some material that was a little bit long, but
recording in progress.
Also, probably some of the students that are participating today, they also came yesterday. And yesterday, I had another talk, which I focused on the transitions and the challenge of the transitions. I'm not really sure if the students of today they belong to undergrad or postgrad studies. Most of them they're in undergrad studies.
Yes, most of them is on undergrad studies.
So they don't have a background of all the background of this. I mean, all the students.
Majority of them. But however, they realize about the situation right now, which is the price of gas is very expensive.
Okay.
That's why we need something that maybe change, especially in Indonesia. The price is keep rising from years to years.
Okay, very, very good. Okay, then I'm going to go very, very briefly to some, I'm going to try to make the presentation very brief, not too long, so that then we can have some discussion. But basically, I've chosen this title to be a little bit different from yesterday, although the content is quite similar in some ways. But I wanted to focus more on the research that we're doing here at the university related to the measurement of social effects of the transition in rural Southeast Asia. But in any way, we also have a little bit on very specific key concepts in the energy system, because probably the students having a background in policy, they might not be so familiar with terms related to the energy system. So I want to touch a little bit on that. Then I'm going to talk very briefly about the transitions again, and then hopefully I can focus more on the research findings that we have and the research project we're doing on the social effects of these solar PV panels in rural Southeast Asia. So let's just begin with very specific, brief concepts of energy. I want to ask actually the audience if they have any idea what is the difference between a dimension and a unit. And some of you that may remember your courses in high school on physics or on science may have the answer, but is somebody there that knows this difference that can help us? Please raise the hand if you know the difference between these two.
Oke, so audience, kalau ada yang mengetahui ya definisi dari dimensi dan unit ya, maybe from majoring in science.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I'm not majoring in science, Mr. Jordi.
But
however, I learned it about
okay,
it.
Okay, somebody knows that. Yeah.
Okay, come on. Please raise your hand from science. What is dimension and unit? Differentiate perbedaan antara dimensi dan unit.
Somebody raised the hand there. Who wants to answer? Somebody?
Hello?
No, nobody? Don't be shy, it's okay. Yeah, I don't see any hand up there. There was somebody that starting with P, Poco or something. Anyway, okay, I don't see any hand. So basically, a dimension is it's a type of notation that characterize physical quantity. Okay, so this thing is classified in two, in something that is called the fundamental or the primary dimensions, and then secondary dimensions. Okay, a dimension is we assign some sort of concept to a physical quantity. All right. So having said that, then what is a unit? Somebody knows? No?
Okay, anybody know the definisi dari unit? Okay,
Somebody's having
good there, okay.
hand.
Number of quantity in the chat.
Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah. Let's see in the chat. Number of quantity. Let me see the chat. Okay, somebody in the chat put number of quantity. All right. Well, actually, a unit is a very arbitrary magnitude. So it's like some sort of a number of quantity that you assign to dimensions. So for units, we have basically two big groups of units. So you have the English system, and you have the international system of units. So the English system is a system that has no these magnitudes for the dimensions, because they have a relationship that it's based on a decimal system. So in most cases, you have multiples of tens or decimal multiples for these units. That's why it's much easier to learn, and it's much more logical than the English measurement or the English system of units. So I'm going to give you some examples of those dimensions. The primary dimensions that we have here are, for example, mass, length, time, and temperature. These are very, very basic primary dimensions. And you express them with those letters there, like M, L, T, and a capital T for the temperature. If you go to the secondary dimension, then you can express, for example, area, which is 2 times L, 2 lengths, okay? And then the volume would be 3 times the L. And then the velocity of something would be the length that you that you have, any length, over some time, over a time. So that's the way you can express the dimension of velocity, which is a secondary dimension, okay? Now, acceleration, for example, it's velocity over time. When the velocity change, then we have acceleration, right? And then the force is actually expressed in this way. You can express it as a mass that you are moving in a length, that you move them from one point to the other one over 2 times or 2 times the time, yeah. So it can also be a mass that you multiply to the acceleration of something. So that is a force, okay? And if we go a little bit further, then we can have something that is called work. Work is when you multiply this force, this dimension of force, by a length, okay? And then if you divide that work over a certain time, meaning that if you do that work in a very, very short time, you're going to have a lot of, you require a lot of power. If you do it in a longer time, then your power is going to be, or the requirement of power is going to be less. So that is the concept of the dimension of power, okay? And now, from the basic physics that we started with in the beginning, then you can see that we're going to something more related to what we know as energy, okay? There are some examples here of units for all those dimensions. So in the case of mass, for example, we have in the international system kilograms, and in the English system, we have pound mass or slugs, what it's called slugs. In terms of the length, as I told you, in the English system, you have foot, you have inches, miles, and so on. And in the case of the international system, meters, okay? And then temperature is the same. There's a difference, acceleration, force. But let's just center here in work and power. In the case of work, when you use the international system, there is a unit called Joule. Joule is the basic unit to measure work. And in the English system is the foot-pound. Now, for power, in the international system, we have watts or horsepower. And in the English system, we have foot-pound per second, which is often not so often heard, or you cannot hear it so often. But that's the unit that they use in the English system. Probably somebody that has an engineering friend or somebody studying science, they would be very familiar with this type of units. as I have to use it constantly in solving problems related to engineering. However, it is very important to keep in mind that these two units are the basic units to measure work and power. Now, there's also something important to know. There's something called the scientific notation. So when you have something that is a number that is very, very long, you can reduce that number using the scientific notation. So in the case, for example, of 1 horsepower, this is equal to 746 watts. This is the equivalence in the units of this dimension of power. Now, if I want to express that 746 with the scientific notation, I can actually, move the zero, move the decimal point in the end to the beginning of the number, and then moving it three zeros to the left, and then we can say that 1 horsepower equals to 0.746 kilowatts. So kilo, as you know, expresses the multiples of 1,000. That's why kilograms is 1,000 grams, right? But you have to remember that we also have, besides the kilo abbreviation of the scientific notation, we also have other scientific notations that are expressed for bigger numbers. For example, megawatts, or gigawatts. Okay, so in the right side, you also have the equivalence of 1 horsepower if you were to move that decimal point to the corresponding number of zeros that you have to move it to express the scientific notation. So then in the end, what is actually that we're talking about when we say that we talk about energy? What is energy? Somebody has any idea of what is energy then?
Okay, to audience, you can use chat, ya. Jadi audience bisa menulis definisi energi di chat mungkin, atau ada yang mau raise hand?
Don't Google it, please.
Okay, energy, something like power.
Somebody has any idea?
Okay,
Ability to do work.
on the chat.
Oh, that came from Google, I think. That's
Someone from the
exactly
chat.
right. Very, very right. Yeah, that's the capacity for doing work. So we just mentioned before that work is a measurement of force by a length, right? So the ability to do work is what we know as energy, because energy is a little bit of a tricky term to define, because it can exist in different types of forms. So, for example, we have thermal energy, we have mechanical energy, we can have kinetic energy, which is related to movement. We can have also potential energy. So if you are in a position that it's that can change the energy from that to another point, then you have some potential energy. Then there's the electric energy that we're going to talk about a little bit later, magnetic energy, chemical energy, and nuclear energy, and so on. So there's different types of energy, and all of these forms, they are actually measured with the same units as work. This is really, really important. Energy is measured with the same units as work, so it's equivalent. Okay. Now, in the international system, besides joules, we also have other ways of measuring energy. One way is with a unit called calories, which was used long before the international system was established. And a calorie is basically the heat that you require to raise the temperature of 1 gram of water at normal pressure by 1 degree Celsius. That's the measurement of a calorie. And that's equivalent to 4 roughly 4 joules, 4.2 joules. So then you can have a conversion of how much energy, or how much is the basic unit of energies that were used before the international system. Now, more recently, we also find the term kilowatt hour. So before I go to the kilowatt hour, I want to just remind you that power is measured by watts, okay? So power is in fact the energy that is transferred from or to an object for a certain time. It's the same as the work, okay? So remembering that illustration before of the exercise in different times, that's exactly power. Power is how much energy is transferred to or from an object by a certain time. But when you measure that time and you multiply it and watt is a measurement of power. Keep this in mind. This is really important because then you're going to see what is the difference between talking about capacity and talking about energy. Okay, and these units are exactly the same, or they have their equivalent in the English system. So in the case of energy, we have a British thermal unit, which is very similar to the calorie, is a heat required to rise the temperature of 1 pound mass of water by 1 degree Fahrenheit. And you have conversions for the British thermal units there. And in the case of power is the foot-pound per second, okay? Which is not really used so much in any energy-related document. But anyway, keep this in mind. And having said that, then, okay, when we see 100 watt light bulb, what are we actually referring to here? Is this the energy of the light bulb? Any idea?
Okay, to make sure that light bulb is on, we need about 100 watt, maybe.
Well, this is actually power. So this is the capacity of the light bulb, how much it can deliver.
Oh, I see.
But when we use that light bulb for a certain time, let's say 10 hours, then that's when we are measuring, or we have a measurement of energy consumption. That's why when we pay the electricity bill, we are paying for our kilowatt hours, not for the kilowatts that we have in our house, right? So in that case, it would be 1,000 watt hour, because we used it, a light bulb that is 100 times 10, 1,000 watt hour, or 1 kilowatt hour, okay? Now, 1 kilowatt hour or 1 watt hour has an equivalent also in joules. And you can see here the equivalent in joules in a different unit. And the same goes for the kilowatt hour that we just mentioned. So in fact, these two ones are the ones that are the measurement of energy, not the one that it's on the top, just depicting the power of the light bulb. So there are also other energy units that you might encounter if you see, for example, energy balances or reports by the different energy agencies that there exist. So one of them is, for example, tons of oil equivalent. And this is the amount of energy that it's released by burning 1 ton of crude oil. So this is, again, a measurement of energy. And as so, it has a conversion factor with kilowatt hour. So 1 ton of oil equivalent equals more or less 11,630 kilowatt hour, which, using those prefix that we revised before, can turn into 11.63 megawatt hour. Okay. And in the case of the English systems, and another unit that we usually see is the British thermal unit, but using the prefixes of the scientific notation that we saw before. So 1 peta BTU, it's called BTUs. It's equal to 293.1 times 10 to the 9th kilowatt hour, which is more or less like 293,000 gigawatt hour. Okay, using all those notations. So this is just to give you an idea of how you can express the energy units in different ways, and you can use the notation so that you can understand what is the scale of the energy that is reported in the reports, in the official reports. So just to summarize this thing, be careful not to confuse kilowatt, which is a unit of power, with kilowatt hour, which is a unit of energy. So the electric energy is expressed in kilowatt hour. And a statement like, for example, the solar panel will generate 10 kilowatt of electricity in 1 year is completely incorrect. A correct statement which would say the solar panel of 10 kilowatt of capacity, that's capacity of the solar panel, will generate 12,000 kilowatt hour of electricity in 1 year. Okay, so this is important for you if you use the terms of that it's normally used in energy reports. Now, let's go and then review what exactly are we saying when we refer to the energy system. Well, first of all, the scheme of energies or the provision of energies here, all sorts of energy forms, energy sources that we have and uses are expressed in this slide. And I think the most intuitive way of looking at energy is when you look at the sectors that use energy. So that's the first thing that comes to my mind when I think about the energy, because if I'm in a building, then that would be referring to the energy that I use to light the building or supply water or heat the building or cool the building in the case of Indonesia, for example. So that is referring to the sectors where the energy is used. So in this case, we have different end uses of energy in the right side of this graph. Then the next thing would be forms of energy that provide or power or provide energy to these sectors. So you can see in the middle of the graph there are 3 basic forms of energy that are used as inputs in the different sectors. So we have electricity, mechanical work, heat. And these basic three basic forms are actually coming from other forms of energy. So you can have electrochemical energy to produce electricity, for example, using batteries or fuel cells, or you can have nuclear energy that it's producing heat, for example, or you can have chemical energy, which is by burning fossil fuels to produce heat or electricity or mechanical work. Okay, so all these type of forms are there in the middle of the graph. And then finally, we have energy sources. the important energy sources, that these are the ones that are converted into energy forms and eventually are used in the sectors. And within these sources, then we have fossil fuels, which you can see in the bottom of the graph, and we also have the renewable energy sources. So the renewable energy sources can be different, can include some or other ones. Sometimes, for example, geothermal energy is included as a renewable energy. Sometimes biomass is included as a renewable energy. We can say, though, that solar energy, solar thermal, solar photovoltaic, hydro energy, and also wind energy, and wind including the ocean current, tidal, and thermal also including the ocean thermal. Those are the core renewable energy sources that most of the reports they refer to. Now, I also want to talk a little bit about balances of energy. So yes, we have two main concepts that you have to keep in mind. One of them is the total primary energy supply in any balance of energy. So a total primary energy supply is the total amount of energy that a country has at their disposal. So in this graph below, you can see how the production of energy, all the production that it's done in one country, is the biggest chunk of the total primary energy supply. But the production can also actually go out. Some of the energy that is produced is going to exports. So that part is actually subtracted from the total. And also some parts can get as imports. So there's actually countries that they don't have too many resources, energy resources. So they import a lot of their primary energy supply, total primary energy supply. So this is one important concept. And then the second one is the total final consumption, or the final energy demand. And this final energy demand is, it includes electricity, fuels, and it includes also all the losses. You have to subtract all the losses in the conversion processes for getting that final consumption. So with these two concepts, then you can know if you're talking about the production or the available energy inside the country, or you're talking about the consumption, the final consumption in the different sectors. This is more or less a Sankey diagram. This is called a Sankey diagram, which is a diagram that depicts the flows of the energy. So you can see how the primary energy supply on the left it turns into transformation. Transforms into power generation and then direct use of those sources. And then after that, then you have the final energy demand. And the final energy demand is divided by sectors or by different uses. So recently, we are experiencing increases in the primary energy consumption, as you can see here in these graphs. The share of the renewables is actually increasing, but it is projected to increase even further. So you can see here in this graph how the projections are very, very optimistic, so that renewables can take a very important role by 2050. And by sector is exactly the same. You can also see how the total consumption, or the final consumption, is increasing and will increase in the future. And here I want you just to take a look at the yellow line, which is the residential sector. And in the residential sector, although we don't have too much increase in the use of liquid fuels to power that sector, which is the graph in the middle, this graph here in the middle, there's actually no much increase here. You can see that there's a very sharp increase for electricity consumption. So for electricity, actually, the residential sector is going to be very critical in the following years. And by region, there's also some important differences. While the OECD countries, they're not going to grow so much, as you can see in the left graph. The countries in Asia, they're going to grow very, very sharply. And probably this is the case of Indonesia as well. So the growth of consumption is going to be substantial, and as you can see in these graphs. So yes, of course, renewables are very important in this transition. I think that as I was discussing yesterday in the presentation, yeah, they're at the center of the transition to the less carbon-intensive futures. But it has not grown in the same way for all the renewables. Photovoltaics and wind energy have grown very, very sharply. But other technologies, especially photovoltaics, wind less. So wind is one of the ones that are lagging, that are not on track in some of the scenarios that exists. So just to give you a very brief idea of how is the growth, you can see on the left side of this bar chart, the blue bars, the blue percentage are growing much faster than the green and the yellow and all the other ones in the bars. And that is because these are corresponding to PV expansion. So you can see how solar has expanded substantially. And it's they are forecasting to be expanded even further. So at the same time, there's also a very, very strong scenario for reducing, with this expansion, the CO2 emissions. So the green line that you see here in this graph, that's the line of the reduction of CO2 emissions in the best, or in the net zero scenario proposed by the International Energy Agency very recently. So you have different lines there. You have a yellow line also, that it's actually the one that it's forecasted to happen if the current policies they just follow. So that's what countries they have agreed to do, and then they're gonna reach that point. But the net zero scenario is trying to make more aggressive policies happen so that the reduction can go further. And then we can come from roughly 33 gigatons of CO2 emissions to more or less 23. So you can see the 50% reduction of emissions that we're targeting in a very, very short span of only 7 years. So this is very challenging, and it's not clear if it will be feasible. However,
okay, I'm sorry, Mr. Jordi, but you only have 4 minutes left.
Okay. Okay, then as I told you, then the basically, yeah, that's very, very challenging for expansion in general, in the general sense. Okay, because there's not much time, I'm just going to move and talk to you a little bit about our research, what we're doing. So basically, we have been working on one specific sector of the transition, and that sector is the solar photovoltaics implemented in rural context of Southeast Asia. So, as you know, besides the challenge of the renewable energy transition, having this reduction of emissions, there's also the challenge of the universal electrification or the universal energy access. That is because today we have more than 775 million people without electricity. So that is more or less 10% of the population. So to give you an idea, that is more or less 3 times the population of Indonesia. That's a lot of people. Of course, most of them, they live in very, very marginalized areas, but you'll be surprised to know that in very nearby countries, for example, in Myanmar, there's still 30% of people without access. The same goes to Cambodia, which is roughly 25 or 15% of the people without access. In Indonesia, in particular, the percentage of access is already above 90%. Seems like. However, there's because of the population, the big population that you have, then there's still roughly 8.6 million people without access. This is a very critical issue, not only in terms of the environment, but also in terms of justice, poverty alleviation, and so on. So for the targets of the SDGs, this is a very important issue. So there's, in general, a very, very few studies emphasizing the context of Southeast Asia. Most of them, they have focused on Asia, on South Asia, or on Africa in terms of electrification, or in terms of the barriers and the challenge for achieving this universal electrification. So that's why we started this project in 2015 to try to analyze what are the outcomes of this renewable energy transition in contexts of Southeast Asia. So far, we have analyzed electrification in Cambodia, Myanmar, Malaysia, more recently in the Philippines, and also in Indonesia. And we have published a couple of articles related to our analysis. So in some of the articles, we focus on the quality of life. How is the quality of life changing in different villages? So you can see in this graph some comparisons between people that have and don't have electricity. And in some cases, for some types of technology, there's a bigger increase in the quality of life. More in detail, there's in this graph here that I'm presenting, you can see how is it changing in different dimensions of quality of life. So not only in general quality of life, but how time or how the perception about the time spent in the household is changing, how the housing or the perception about the housing change, safety, activities, and so on. So using this information, then we have understood how is the outcome of electrification in the positive way and also in the negative way. So just to show you a little bit what we're doing more recently, we're actually, from those initial studies, we're now changing to have a more qualitative understanding of the changes using PV systems. So we use an interview, and the interview inquires about different aspects of this quality of life domains. And using this information, then we can have different codes, different information that comes from the interviews, and classify those codes, and then understand if the changes are related to health, activities, social interaction, safety, needs, and so on. And these are some of the important codes that we're finding. In the Philippines, for example, the biggest concern is always expense reduction. So solar PVs, they have a very big impact for expense reduction. In the case of Malaysia, it's a little bit different. It's more related to convenience or actually improving some productive activities. So you can see how it's different depending on the context. You can see some of the fragments here of our interviews, which are very, very shocking. for example, the first one is saying that back in the days, the reason why we didn't receive help was because others didn't know we existed, because it was very dark in our place. So some people, they have they describe very, very strong feelings about how is the visibility of them in the society. You can also see, for example, in the second one, a lady of that it's middle age. She's saying, when eating, it's bright. Whenever we eat, we can now see what we're eating. These are fragments that I found in the Philippines, which are very, very descriptive of what we are looking at in the codes. So yeah, in general, I could say that yeah, they have all our findings. They reveal a lot of benefits, but also we have found that there's some negative concerns about electrification, and the negative concerns that can be individual, in the sense that some of the projects, they are actually changing the customs, or they're actually locking in people in electrification. But also there's other more institutional problems, which I think this is more of your concern as political scientists, because we also found that there's some sort of institutional vacuum in the projects. And I want to focus the last minutes that I have in this concern. One of the challenges that, for example, some of the players or some of the receivers of the systems, they can obtain more benefits. So there's actually an exacerbation of the inequality when the projects come to the communities. Some of the systems, they have a very, very low quality and low capacity. So the systems tend to malfunction, and then failure is something common. The systems that are provided are very, very short in lifespans. So this lifespan is only of 5 years. So in the end, the problem of systems that are becoming waste is an issue in the communities. As you can see here in these pictures, then some of the systems, they become waste, and they're just there left on the roofs, and there's a big problem of waste management. As you know, panels, they might contain some toxic materials, which they can leak in rivers and then create a problem of in the environment. So this type of vicious cycle, when you have systems that are provided by some NPOs or NGOs that are actually trying to do good, but they're not providing the sufficient capacity for the community, creates problems, and they are actually operating in a institutional vacuum where there is no regulation, and then there is no overseeing of the activity. So, in summary, I think the transition has a lot of challenge related to the macro sphere. So challenge that we see of how to promote the renewables, but also there's some challenge more in the microsphere, and specifically when we talk about the context of more marginalized communities, which are our priority in the end. We want to prioritize the more marginal people, so that these marginal people, they can actually contribute to increase the transition of the less marginal communities in the society. So what you see in this final slide is basically some of the recommendations or some of the considerations for policy, which is to reduce the institutional vacuum, ensure the compatibility with the local customs, target the inequality reduction, target players in a similar way, and make the electrification impact livelihoods, create jobs, and provide a service that is of quality and it's reliable, because the failure is common. and this is a big issue in the communities. So also, and finally, the design of the programs so that we can think about what we're going to do with those PVs that are not going to work or are going to be disposed in the near future. So thank you very much. And I hope that the lecture is a little bit informative about some issues that we find through our research. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Jordi, for your presentation. And from what you present, I see that you have never been research on Indonesia. Yeah.
Yes,
If you compare Indonesia and Malaysia, Indonesia is huge. And
Right.
there's more people than Malaysia and Philippines. Okay, maybe next time
Yes.
you can do research in Indonesia, because solar panel in Indonesia is illegal, not
Oh, really?
provided by the government.
Okay.
That's
Well,
why.
actually, we have a project. We are doing some research as well in Indonesia, but unfortunately, with the pandemic, we had to stop.
I see.
We had to stop collection of data, and we have to stop our the project completely since 2019.
Because
And now, actually, my colleague
because I'm
Yuka,
interested in changing my electricity in the solar panel, but when I see the price, wow, there's expensive, and it's illegal, not supported by the government of Indonesia. Okay,
That is
thank
a
you very
very
much,
interesting
Mr.
fact,
Jordi.
yeah.
We can continue it maybe later on the
Sure.
question
Thank you.
and answer session.
Thank you.
Very much. Let's continue to our next presenter from BRIN, Badan Riset and Inovasi Nasional, Mr. Yuka. Are you here?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Okay, Mr. Yuka, because the time is very limited. The time is yours. You can start the presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mas Taufik. Thank you, Dr. Jordi, for your excellent presentation about the energy and energy system, including the definition of the energy. In this session, I will explain about the multi-actors of renewable energy policy implementation in Indonesia. I think renewable energy is one of the goals in the SDGs. So we can see in the slides, new and renewable energy is related to the goals number 7, 11, 13, and 17. Everybody can utilize solar energy, micro hydro, and wind energy. Indonesia has many renewable energy sources. That is why it is very complicated and it's very interesting as well to implement renewable energy in Indonesia. We will discuss about 7 points. The first, who are key actors in implementing renewable energy policy in Indonesia? And the second, how is the role of each actor in implementing renewable energy policy in Indonesia? And the third, who is the key actor to implement renewable energy policy in Indonesia? And the fourth, why the key actors are important for renewable energy policy in Indonesia? And five, how does the key actor implement renewable energy policy in Indonesia? Then six, who are beneficiaries of renewable energy project in Indonesia? And the last, how do the beneficiaries utilize renewable energy project in Indonesia? Actually, if we imagine about the actor or implementer, it is the role of the government, right? But in this case, Dr. Jordi explained more about how the energy system can operate, and can give benefit to the people. That is why it's very complicated. Mr. Taufik said that solar panel is costly, and not everyone, not as people can purchase the solar technology, and maybe it is not connected with the PLN grid of electricity. In this discussion, there are at least it is possible more than four. At least there are four: academicians, business, government, or community. We call it with ABGC, or there is the concept with the name of quadruple helix. But we don't say about the concept. We will discuss about the real actor, ABGC. A academician from universities, think tank policy think tank, and R&D agencies. Business, it like private enterprises that own a multinational community from NGO, social groups or civil society, and governments. In Indonesia case, it consists of central and local governments in Indonesia. Actor has role and function. For example, academician producing scientific publication or renewable energy studies that Dr. Jordi does, and producing knowledge for renewable energy policy, producing policy documents, producing feasibility studies, and business investing in renewable energy projects, installing renewable energy projects, manufacturing or producing renewable energy products, distributing, marketing renewable energy products, and etc. Governments initiating the project of renewable energy, including formulating, planning, implementing, evaluating, and then funding, making a decision if there is the problem in implementing or in installing renewable energy. For example, solar panel that is implemented or is installed in the rural or remote areas. It is very complicated, starting from the transportation, the culture of society, the cost of accommodation, and maybe the land conflict. So the government role is very important to make a solution of these issues. And the last, communities proposing ideas for renewable energy to government, business, academician, and then utilizing and maintaining renewable energy projects, informing ongoing issues or problems of renewable energy, and participating actively in public hearing programs on renewable energy projects. That is why all of actors have a main role to make successful implementation of renewable energy project in Indonesia. But if we want to know how is the most important actor, how is the key actor to implement renewable energy policy in Indonesia, based on our empirical activities, government agencies are the key actors. In Indonesia, we have the government structure level, from the central government, ministries, or non-ministry, or institution, and the second layer, local government, province, agency, or municipality, and then the district units or kecamatan, and the lowest level is the village. We propose that all of the actors, particularly in the government actor, are very important to make implementable energy policy in Indonesia. And then why governments as a key actor is very important to implement renewable energy policy in Indonesia. We have 5 reasons: economic reasons, system reasons, political reasons, technology reasons, cultural reasons. Economics, it is very classic and crucial issues. Most of renewable energy products are costly and unaffordable for people. It is very rare in the marketplace in Indonesia, and not everyone can get it easily. The second system reason is oftenly there is a locked system of the energy distribution and use in a country, assuming information of renewable energy issues and many issues that is close to the exclusive person. That is why government must be present to solve this issue. Political reasons is one of the interesting reason because renewable energy policy is not separated from the political decision. Technology reasons, it is the main function of Dr. Jordi in Kyoto, how to develop sophisticated or advanced technology like solar, wind, nuclear, and many more. If we don't have R&D in this sector, maybe like Indonesia, we will buy or purchase this technology from the abroad, and we only as consumer, not producer. And the last, cultural reasons. Indonesia consists of more than 13,000 islands dispersed from the Sabang to Merauke, and there are many different social and norms in Indonesia. So if our experience, if we visited different island, that each island has solar energy, wind energy, but we must consider the acceptance of the local people. It is very, very crucial. If we don't respect to the local value of the community, it will be difficult for government even to implement renewable energy policy in this area. I think government as a key actor can play as a gardener. I try to make like simulation government and gardener in this context. The first, making a fence. Government can create a supporting ecosystem prior to renewable energy projected implemented in area, and then planting. Government can start to implement some selected renewable energy projects, and then watering plants. Wait. Sorry. And then watering plants. How government provides human resources, basic funding support, and equipments to implement renewable energy policy. And then fertilizing plants, making an incentive, subsidize, providing infrastructure and other assistance to smooth renewable energy policy implementation. And depriving grass, combating hindrance law, regulation, removing obstacles, disturbing renewable energy projects, and wiping out bad issues. And the last, harvesting results, operating, maintaining, and supervising renewable energy projects when they are utilized by beneficiaries. This is the role of government, how to support renewable energy policy in area including Indonesia, because making a fence is the first stage before government formulate or determine a decision in policy for energy. And we know in Indonesia it is very difficult to conduct all of states, particularly the first stage and the second and the fourth and the fifth. It is very difficult because we have bureaucratic government system that is not support to the development of renewable energy in Indonesia. Okay, who are beneficiaries of renewable energy projects in Indonesia? All users, from academician, business community, and government. Why all? Because if you imagine the beneficiaries are people or community, yeah, it is true, but it will be more convenient if we mention all actors. Why? Because academician will get benefits from this project. They will do scientific and empirical studies and make a policy recommendation or make a novelty from their studies. For governments, it is very important for politics and policy supports to make a convince from the constituent why people choose the government. And business, it is easy, profit, because we know if there is the private sector or business join in the governmental projects, it's not only for public goals, but also from profit. If there is no profit, I think business is reluctant to join this project. And the last, communities. It is the study of Dr. Jordi to improve quality of life. Particularly, we have specific benefits from communities, not limited to electricity generator, but also to increase education, to increase economy, and to make more healthy. For example, in Indonesia, before solar panel was present in remote area, in the night, all of the local people and on 6 or 7 p.m. they will go to bed, sleep. There is no activity. But after solar energy were installed in the remote area, they will do many activity in the night, study, discussion, working, and many more. So there is the positive change before and after solar energy installed in the remote area. They are the examples of the government actor that I presented yesterday, from the Ministry of Energy, Ministry of Planning, Ministry of Village, Green, National Energy Board, House of Representatives, and many more. They are local governments. And then there are the academicians in Indonesia from UB, one of them, Green, Pulse Lab of Jakarta, Think Tank Policy. There are examples of energy communities in Indonesia. We have more than one. And the last is the examples of electro business. PLN is the state-owned electricity company. PLN has monopoly authority. Maybe compare in Japan, Dr. Jordi, that you talked in last months. Japan has more than one electricity company, but Indonesia only one, PLN. So it is the unique system how government and enterprise can provide electricity in one agency. Maybe itu. Thank you all. Master Baik, saya kembalikan.
Okay, thank you very much for Mr. Yuka for the presentation. Okay, let's go to the last session of today for the lecturing, which is question and answer session. All of the audience, you can ask the question by raising your hand, or you can type on the chat. Okay, while waiting, I want to ask Mr. Yuka. In the last few years, I forgot. 2018 maybe. There's someone who replaced, replace gas with water. Is it true or it just a hoax?
Where you get the information?
On the television. I watch somebody replace the water with gas. Wow.
I can't answer about this issue, but maybe Dr. Jordi, you can talk about the development of the science of technology of energy in Japan, because Indonesia, Dr. Jordi, we have many social issues in social media or in television, explaining about the converting energy, right? from gas with water, water can change gas or petroleum and many more. In my experience, in my information in research in Indonesia, we don't have research like that. Maybe not yet.
Because, maybe not yet.
Yeah,
so
maybe
it's not true.
Yeah, maybe, but the development of the sophisticated technology in Japan, maybe it will be true in Japan.
Okay, I hope
maybe
it can be
can,
true.
You can explain about the effort, development of energy technology in Japan. Water can.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Yuka. There's one of the audience raising his hand. Yeah, Mr. Farhan. What is your question?
Yes. Okay. Thank you for the permission. So, this is my question. I'm a little bit curious about energy. I want to ask Mr. Jordi. So, this is a little bit out of context, but still on the matter of energy. My question is, what is the role of mystical energy beliefs in certain cultures and spiritual practice? And how can we understand or interpret these beliefs from an anthropological or sociological perspective? So this is Indonesian. Very believing about a mystical energy. So what is the context about the science? What is Mr. Jordi believe? It is. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Farhan. Let me see if I could understand the question properly. What do I think about the bill, or what is the conflict or the issue of beliefs from different cultural groups in terms of the use of energy? Is that right?
About mystical energy.
Mystical energy.
Yes.
In Indonesia, we believe that there's something mystical, something moving by itself.
Okay, it's not related to the rituals surrounding energy use, right? Not that, because there's actually a lot of discussion about the rituals related to different types of energy used in the household. Let me just give you an example. I know about a study that they analyze barriers for different transitions because of the cultural aspect of rituals related to energy or energy sources being used in the household. In the case of India, for example, for some females, it is not permitted to use gas or to use a certain type of fuel when they are in a specific period in a specific period. I know that, for example, in the case of the menstruation, they cannot use the specific type of energy. So this is a belief from a very specific cultural group, and then it becomes a very crucial issue when you talk about the transitions from biomass to gas. And then, because biomass has a lot of implications in terms of health. So these type of barriers from the social perspective, they do exist. They do exist in some very specific communities, and it's a challenge. Because you need to make compatible the transition to the customs in the location.
How about in Japan? Is there any belief about that?
Not really. In Japan, I think the most of the people there they're not really attaching any any specific meaning to the source, the energy source that they use. However, I would say that there's some quite different practices in terms of how energy is used for energy services, for different purposes inside the household. So in the case of Japanese households, we have floors that are made of a kind of weaving inside the house. Tatami, exactly. So tatami is a way of cooling the body, cooling the house naturally, because in summer it's really humid and hot, and then tatami was used to maintain the household without, you don't use the shoes, and you are barefooted in the household, and it was a way of cooling yourself. And in the case of winter, it was the opposite. Tatami is way warmer than wooden flooring or concrete flooring. So in that sense, tatami also played a very crucial role in the way that you regulate temperature in the household. And actually, people, they prefer to use something that is called a kotatsu in winters, which is a short table
with heater.
With a heater below the table.
Yeah.
So instead of a room that is heated by a centralized heating, you never see that in Japan.
I understand.
It's a very strong cultural preference to prefer this type of options when you try to regulate temperature in the household. But as far as the uses of energy in cooking or in other different energy services respect, I think in Japan there's not really a strong preference for a specific fuel, as we can see in some other regions. However, I think because of being an East Asian country, the preference for a very strong heat when cooking is still present. Is present here. So gas for cooking is something pretty important in many households, as opposed to using electricity for cooking, which is the trend now, to electrify households and then use electromagnetic cookingware and so on. So what you're saying about the mystical energy, well, probably it's a little bit
mystical energy, maybe like there's a ghost or something.
I see.
There's a ghost that moving things by itself. So because we're gonna see ghosts, that's why they call it the mystical energy. Mystical energy.
Well, I think that might be a very a crucial thing in the belief when if you think about changing the way that they live. Specifically, if you, for example, put lighting in a household and the lighting is not something that it's common, that might actually I don't know if it would improve or make them more safe,
Okay.
make them feel more safe instead of having not having the lighting. But in many cases of the communities that we visit, people is actually not completely devoid of electricity. What happens is that the people, they use some ways of providing electricity that are very expensive and very inefficient. So they have generators, or they have batteries that are very rudimental, and then they charge the batteries, and then they come back, and then they have electricity for a certain time. So if the solar projects come to the community, then things change, but things change not so drastically, unless the communities are very, very remote, like the Penang in Sarawak, for example, that they live in the jungle.
Okay.
They're nomads. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for the answer. Does it answer your
Thank you,
question,
Farhan.
Farhan?
Yes. Okay, sure. Maybe it's a empirical problem. Is it?
Different culture, different situation.
Yes.
I think that's the point. We have to make the transitions very culturally compatible. That's one of the big challenges of the electrification problem. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr.
Okay.
Rajab.
Okay, audience, any other questions? So, Mr. Jordi, on 2030, Japan will change everything into electricity, right? Including car.
Well, that's a very interesting question as well, because I think in the case of the transport sector, actually the promotion of electric vehicles here in Japan is not so strong.
Oh, not so strong, because
Not so
in
strong.
Korea, South Korea, it's already started at 2022.
Yeah,
They change everything into electric car.
I think here in Japan is a little bit different. Probably because the hybrid vehicles, they are
Hybrid
very
vehicles.
well developed here.
Oh,
And that's one of the reasons why the push from transition to a complete electric vehicles is not so strong. Another reason is that I didn't show something very shocking about the electric vehicles, but I'm just going to show you one slide that might give you an idea of something that it's also very, very shocking about the EVs. If I may, I'm going to just share this slide here. This slide is from a study of a group of researchers from Japanese universities, and they were comparing what is the amount of material throughput. That means the material extraction that we would need to build one electric vehicle in comparison to the greenhouse or the fossil, the engine vehicles. So you can see on the right side here, these are the emissions, the CO2 emissions that you need for the vehicle. And this is in different stages of the life cycle of the vehicle. So during the production stage is in the yellow part of the bar, the operation is the blue one, maintenance is in the green one. And in these three stages, then you have different levels of, I mean, the total CO2 emissions of the life cycle are in the black dot
in the production.
here. Yeah, which refers to this axis on the right. Now, on the left side, we have another axis here, which is the total material requirement to build that, and that means like when you build something, you have a material, that it can be a metal or can be ceramic, plastics, or whatever. And each of these materials, the amount of material you use for the object, it has an associated amount of tipping from obtaining the material. So that means that for some materials in particular, there is a lot of mining activity to obtain the material. And that involves a lot of material extraction. So in the case of a gasoline vehicle, which is the first bar here, the total material requirement for that vehicle, it's much less than the electric vehicle or the hybrid vehicle. So clearly, we have a trade-off. We have a trade-off between the higher emissions of CO2 emissions that we have for the gasoline vehicle versus the lower level of emissions in the electric vehicle or in the hybrid vehicle, which I cannot see here in the hybrid vehicle, but the higher material requirement that you need for those vehicles. And this is a little bit related to the amount of rare metals that you find in the electric components of the electric vehicles, as well as the hybrid vehicles. So, in fact, the hybrid vehicles, they have a bit less of impact in terms of that material. So we have to be very careful about what's going on with electric vehicles, because electric vehicles might be a very, very good option in terms of the emissions, but not so much in terms of the materials that are required to build them. So, yeah, I'm not really sure if the transition in the transport sector should really aim to just expand the amount of electric vehicles.
Okay, because in Indonesia, it's already started. Campaigns on this year, especially.
Yes.
From car, bike, motorcycle.
Right.
Everything on electric. I see.
Yeah, I think it's everywhere in the world that has this trend. Yeah, but yeah, if I just give you an example of the metals, the material requirement of metals, this is a very interesting study that they're conducting here in different institutes in Japan. You can see how different is the requirements. We're talking about here a scale of a logarithmic scale. So it's not a linear scale. That means that to go from this 1 to this 10 it's a very, very big gap. It's a huge difference. So the amount of material that you require to extract 1 kilogram of iron in comparison to 1 kilogram of nickel is huge. And if you compare that one with lithium, for example, that we use for the batteries, that is impressively huge. And not to mention if we use more rare metals here. So we have to be very careful about the transition in terms of the material requirement that we would actually need.
The electric lithium, right?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, is there any questions? Audience? It's not? Maybe I can ask Mr. Yuka here about the solar electricity in Indonesia. I realize the general general lamp for electricity in Indonesia is mostly use solar, right? However, in when we can change into solar panel, the electricity. Change when PLN can provide us with a solar panel.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Pick. Actually, Indonesia government has more than 10 regulations about the solar energy in Indonesia. This is the point. And the next point, government of Indonesia has budget to transform from the fossil fuel to the solar energy. Your question is very difficult for me, not only for me, but maybe for the government of Indonesia, because the main issue of the renewable energy in Indonesia is come from political.
Okay, based on your workplace, maybe you can predict if Mr. Jordi said on 2030 is the time when Japan is going to change. When is Indonesia?
Yeah, based on the government document, based on the regulation, Indonesia has mandatory in 2025. The contribution of renewable energy is about 25% from the all energy. 2025, but 2 years again from this year. This again. It is ambitious.
Okay.
No, 2025. Sorry,
2025. Okay.
Yeah.
2 years.
And 2 years again. It is not possible. And then 2050, 50. Sorry, not 50. 2030. 30. The contribution of renewable energy is about 31%. So it is only document of government.
Okay, it's prediction.
Prediction is that is why if you read the energy issue, particularly green energy, the expert will say it is the ambitious program from Pemerintah, because the current condition, the problem of green energy or anything like that, it have many obstacles, particularly technology, the cost, the support of political actor, and the last PLN, has document that mention coal and fossil are the main energy source in Indonesia up to maybe to 20 or 30 years or maybe 50 years. Okay. Itu Mr. Taufik. You can imagine, you can write with yourself.
Okay. If there's no question for today, because it's lunchtime, maybe. Okay. Oh, there's one question in the chat for Mr. Yuka. Okay, the question is, can we connect for organizations that are not focused on renewable energy, at least pay attention to the impact of emission and on climate change? Okay, because today the prolonged dry season has occurred. Okay, fortunately, yesterday we started raining. However, there's no action from all type of organization in Indonesia. For example, can I invite religious organization? Okay. Okay, this type of question is very concerning.
Maybe Mr. Jordi, you can.
Maybe Mr. Jordi, you can add
for this question
from your perspective.
The condition in Japan or in Mexico country, because Mexico and Indonesia has the similar culture. But I will answer firstly. Maybe you can invite Pak Kiai, religious organization or anything of the names. If government, academician, and business has the deal, it is the point. The first stage, government, business, and academician has like the common understanding, and then community NGO like the religious organization can be involved after there is a decision, because the function of the religious organization not to be operator, not to be decision maker, but how to diffuse, how to communicate information from three actors: government, academician, and the business. That is that I saw before. We have many obstacles in the rural areas, so this role can play as the bridge from the from the community and the three actors. Mungkin itu. Mungkin Dr. Jordi, you can help me to answer this question. It's very unique question. Maybe in your country you have this case.
Yeah, Yuka, thank you, Tofik, and also the person who put the question. Let me see, who was that? Oh, Setya Novanto.
Satya, yes.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's really interesting, the question. Actually, I do have something to say about the religious organizations. Not much from the perspective of Mexico. I would say more like from the perspective of the work that we've done in the Philippines. Now, first of all, I just want to clarify that, probably Setya is more concerned about the impact of the renewables to reduce the climate change, right? So
Right.
the impact of renewables not for the marginalized, but more to reduce the climate change, because greenhouse gases are more an issue of the substitution of fossil fuels, right? Of course, if we think about the marginalized communities, then they are using biomass for cooking, or they use or they maybe use a generator for producing electricity to light the household, or to provide electricity for their services. So in that sense, there is a contribution, a moderate contribution for the climate change from using renewables, specifically solar panels in these communities, right? However, the scale is small. So the question here is it referring to the larger scale, like industrial renewables applied in industry, or renewables applied in large scale power generation. I think in this sense, the religious communities are, at least in my experience, they're not as capable as helping, as contributing for that larger scale need for cutting down climate change or cutting down the effect of the emissions. But what I can say a little bit more in terms of positive contribution from religious groups is, or the activity of these religious groups is, that they do contribute a lot with the marginalized communities. In the case of the Philippines, many NGOs, they have religious affiliation, and they look for finding ways to fund solar projects. Our main collaborator in the Philippines, it's actually an NGO. It's not an academic institution. The NGO is a Christian NGO, and they provide solar home systems in the communities. We have a lot of discussions about the systems that they are actually providing, because based on the findings that we are obtaining, we realize that the low capacity systems they have some strong benefits, but they also have some strong concerns. So in that sense, the group, actually the NGO is very open discuss the findings that we are getting through the field work, to understand if those systems that they're providing, they're really helping or not. In terms of the greenhouse gas emissions, of course, they do helping. They're helping because they substitute generation of electricity by diesel generators, so they do reduce the effect of these generators. But the thing is that I'm really curious about the role of religious groups in terms of the transition. Very contextual. I think it's very contextual. In the case of the Philippines, because the provision is not fully covered by the government, then they have a big need for groups to get involved in this provision. That's why religious groups, they can get in, and then the NGOs, they actually find ways to fund solar projects, and then they install the solar home systems. They help the people. So I think in the case of Malaysia, opposite. There's no way that an NGO can actually get in and then provide systems, because the government is the whole responsible of providing those systems. So it's a very, very high contrast.
Okay, I think the case is the same with Malaysia, and Indonesia is the same. NGO is not allowed to provide anything related with source. I think source energy.
Which I think it has its reasons. There's a reason for that. Probably, because the control of the activity of the NGO is going to be very difficult. But it's hard to say if not allowing them to get in is a positive way, is the most positive way, because in a sense the impact of the NGO activity is it can be very positive. And in the case of the Philippines, it would be even better if the government had more overseeing of what's going on, more control of the activity, in the sense that it's not prohibiting completely the activity, but it's more aware of what are the needs of this changing activity of the NGOs. As I was saying, the problem of the waste management of panels that have very low quality, or they don't have a high capacity, it's a big issue. So I think that is the opportunity, the opportunity cost that they still have in the Philippines. But in other contexts, they could actually take advantage of some sort of experience that it's already happening there, and then correct the problem, and then provide with more structured institutional involvement, and then allow the activity of the NGOs, because the funding, they are specialized in funding. They can get funding very, very easily. I think it's a positive thing.
Yes, I think you're correct. yeah, of course. Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Jordi, for the answer. And we're already on the last question for today. So I would like to thanks to our great presenters, Mr. Yuka and Mr. Jordi. Thank you very much for your time and for your presentation. Give applause to both of them. Audience. Yay. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the opportunity, and very, very interesting.
And Mr. Yuka, for your time. Okay, and
Thank you so much.
Okay, with this, our lecturing session is over. I would like to apologize if there's any mistake from my presentation. That's why I have to close this session. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, everybody. You can. Bye. See you on the next session.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Universitas Brawijaya was established by the President of the Republic of Indonesia on June